Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's good to see you all, and welcome to the home of Unitarian Universalism in Central Washington. My name is Pat Whitfield. I serve on the worship committee. I'm a greeter, and I also sing with the choir. And starting next week, I will be on the board. So I've got a lot of connections. If you're a visitor this morning, we are so glad that you are here. We welcome every person of goodwill, just as you are, whatever body you inhabit, whomever you love, whatever your age, you are welcome here. We invite everyone to join us for coffee and treats and conversation after the service, both in person or on Zoom. For you folks on Zoom, you'll find your order of service in the chat. Now, for those of you who are here, please take a moment, greet those around you, and then turn around and wave to the people who are on Zoom. The announcements are on the screen, but there's one announcement that's missing. For those of you who go to happy hour on Friday evenings, there will be no happy hour this Friday. So you'll have to save up all that energy and chatting and move it to the following week and spend your 4th of July a different way. Okay, all right. And now we will light our chalice. Yeah, I have it right here. All right. I will be saying the words for lighting the chalice in both English and Spanish, first in English and then in Spanish. We light this chalice for the earth, of which we are all a part. We pledge to care for what it needs and hold it in our hearts. If you'd like to join me in Spanish, feel free to do so. Encendemos este cáliz por la tierra, a la cual pertenecemos, prometemos cuidarla y llevarla en el corazón. Okay. All right. And we're a little out of order. Our land acknowledgement. Our fellowship is located on the ancestral land of the Pisquoses, their homeland. For thousands of years, the Pisquoses have been stewards of this land, fishing, hunting, gathering roots or berries, and practicing cultural traditions. The Pisquoses still live here. We acknowledge that their land has been taken over because the U.S. government broke treaty obligations and carelessly allowed uninvited white colonizers to settle here. We stand alongside our indigenous neighbors as they continue their traditions and seek to have all their rights recognized. We acknowledge our shared responsibility to sustain right relations with each other and the land. We also have the words of our own local Randy Lewis to add to that this morning. And what Randy said is, as Pisquosa elder and leader, the Pisquosa are not people of a romantic past, nor are they of an irrelevant present. We, speaking of us now, of Cascade UU, honor the truth of his words. The Pisquosa are still here, seeking to live in a vibrant present full of promise and history. What binds us to them is a desire to honor the interdependent land. Okay, and now we will have time for all ages. We will have our story for our children. Are there any children? No? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, hang on a second.
Do that? Let me do that.
Yeah, okay.
So, I call you to worship with words adapted from my colleague, Reverend Sharon Wiley. There's an old saying. The old saying is that the purpose of a religious community is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. I say we are all the afflicted and we are all the comfortable. So may here this morning, may we find peace in times of great tumult, and invite tumult into the lives of the too quiet. May here we find calm in times of restlessness, and inspire restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be where ancient and well-worn patterns comfort us. Let this be a place where you consider what you have never considered before and imagine for the world and yourself something new and unthinkable. Seek this hour new ways of being. Come, let us worship together. And we're going to worship with a story. Oh no, we're going to worship with a song, an opening song. And the opening song is a classic. One of my colleague says, every religion has to have this very cheesy, simple song that everybody loves, and this is one of those. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Please rise in body and or.
Although I know there are many children in spirit, any children who wish to come forward to hear today's story? Okay, in that case, I'm going to share it from up here. The story is The Worry.
Now shape community. We now uphold in worship as a value the connections that we have by sharing with one another moments in our lives, events of significance, things we wish to remember, things we need to honor. We always avoid announcements or try to avoid announcements during this time. We try to keep our remarks short. We make sure that we only share what we have, if it includes other people, only share what we have permission about others to share. I'll take the flame down here. You can each speak into the microphone and say your name and then light a candle as you wish. Togetherness. We will now listen to music, and as we listen to music, if you feel so moved, you can come up and silently light a candle for something not spoken. So much of our worship is summoned with words, but now I lead you into time of silence with words. I invite you to join with me as I move towards meditation. I breathe in the warmth of sunlight, its glow filling the spaces where fear and doubt reside, pushing them aside. I breathe out the tension I carry. I release whatever does not serve me. I breathe in the strength of our community, this sanctuary of diverse voices and shared purpose. I breathe in the power of togetherness. I breathe out all despair, trusting that change is born on many small acts of love and care and connection. I breathe in the courage to speak the truth I know, even if it trembles on my lips. I breathe out the silence that holds me back. My breath makes space for honesty and justice. I breathe in the hope of transformation, knowing we are all able to build and to heal as long as we live. I breathe out, I breathe in. May each full breath invoke the sacred rhythm of life, the pulse of creation, the power to shape the world around and within. I don't know if you noticed in the story, there's a moment which I saw as a literary reference, when the jungle begins to grow in the boy's room. I thought of where the wild things are. This is a much more Buddhist approach to where the wild things are. And where the wild things are, the boy goes through wilderness and flame and energy and screaming in the forest with all the monsters, and then they finally go to sleep. This little boy has a much more calm monster in the forest. But earlier this month, I was reading news, my news feed, and there was this line, Seattle Times. Panic is brewing over how many people in Washington could lose health insurance under the president's big tax cut bill. And thinking about this, in the article, I began to worry about the people in my family and in my congregation who could be hurt. Of course, there's many other sources of worry, and so I began thinking about all who have been hurt during the past 5 months of federal level cuts and chaos, and the worry of those who look on an uncertain future each day. Over and over, we hear stories of people being taken off the streets or pulled from campuses and shipped to foreign prisons. There are massive political troubles in the world, the potential of world war, and then I began to read about the dangers of AI being given control over our lives, computer programs with more and more power, while at the same time those same programs completely invent facts and figures, and the programmers say the program's just hallucinating. And I think about human beings who hallucinate, the amplification of human delusion in our technology. A woman named Erin Westgate, a researcher from the University of Florida, studies cognition, says that people are using ChatGPT to make spiritual sense of their lives. If a user, for example, has psychosis, ChatGPT will gently, kindly, and sweetly reaffirm their descent into the delusion. Often leads people into believing that they are a deity, that they are the key player, the one key player to unravel the vast conspiracy. And we know how politics have nurtured the same thing that computer programs are doing. Dr. Westgate says, explanations are powerful even if they're wrong. Along with all that, I read about the massive increase in the demands for electricity from massive server farms to serve all these computers that are running AI-generated programs. And that reminds me of the global increase in environmental troubles and disasters. I think of how whole species of fish and birds and mammals have already and will vanish from the earth forever. Because of our greed, because of our desire, because of our delusions. And then in the middle of all my worrying, of all my thinking about the end of the world, I heard some words from back when the world was getting ready for the Y2K disaster, right? How many people remember that? Y2K, right? Turn of the computers. It was Jewel's voice, singer-songwriter who said, if I could tell the world just one thing, it would be that we're all okay and not to worry, because worry is wasteful and useless in times like these. So my simple message today is don't worry. And the extension of that is find something else to replace worry. Jewel's response to the uselessness of worry was to sing, I won't be made useless. I won't be idle with despair. I will gather myself around my faith, for light does the darkness most fear. These lyrics, conscious or not, are of course an echo of Jesus. Jesus, who in Matthew's Gospel in chapter 6 says, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life. What you will eat, what you will drink, nor about your body or what you will put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Moreover, he says, look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, they neither gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more than they? And which of you, by being anxious, this is the key line, which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to the span of your life? The parallel to this Christian scripture is the view in Buddhism. In a universe with no God, worrying is still wasteful and useless in times like these. The Buddha claimed that worry is one particular form of suffering. And suffering is caused by ignorance and attachment. Worry means that you are focused on possibilities of the future, and therefore you are not living in the present. You're dragging in possibilities of the future into the present and cluttering it up instead of just being here with these people in this beautiful place on this good earth. If you are truly and fully in the present moment, you may find that it is impossible to worry, says the Buddha, based on his experience. Sometimes we worry because we cling to common and false perceptions of the world. We expect our relationships, our possessions, our place in life to be stable and to always please us, but in reality, both our minds and the situations around us are impermanent. They're constantly changing. We have made incredible changes in this world. The role of women in this society has been radically transformed. I was just reading, it was 1960, a year before I was born, we started desegregating schools. Those changes didn't happen all that long ago, and yet there are still changes happening all the time. And sometimes the things that change back again. Everything is impermanent. Everything is constantly changing. Buddha wants you to notice. Sure, we may understand on a surface level that our youthfulness will fade, or a relationship might end, or even our new fancy phone will eventually wear out and need to be replaced. Probably sooner than we think. But we see these events always as distant possibilities. And in reality, they could all come tomorrow, all could be gone tomorrow. Everything is impermanent. Even the mountains, the timeless mountains, crumbling and fading slowly over eons. And thus life is scary. Knowing all that we know, how can we walk the earth with unanxious steps like a tiger in the forest? How can we be here now? How many pat phrases in religion: seek the Lord, awake to the Dharma, know the everyday magic and let it live, work to affirm the best in human character and in human life. And note, anxiety is not the same thing as worry. Anxiety is an open-ended emotional state. Some say being anxious is a feeling. It's a feeling that we have. And there are people, I have met people, who have free-floating anxiety all the time. It's in their lives. I've seen people hurt. I've worked in mental health institutions where people they didn't know what they were anxious about, that just felt anxious all the time. It's a part of our biology, it's a part of our brain structure to be anxious. Unease, a nervousness. It can sometimes manifest with other physical symptoms like racing heart, muscle tension, digestive issues. It can be a normal response to stress, but it can just be without any cause in the mind. It is thus a spiritual state to be anxious. The word anxiety is related to the words angst and anger. But it does have this beneficial fact. when I come in to the building, I was thinking about this as I walked into the building, there's this anxiety, this excitement when I come into worship. Always. It's always been like that. I once caught a terrible flu. And then as I went into, back when I was an intern minister, and I walked into the church, and all of a sudden my flu was gone. It was just this excitement that I had. It was kind of an anxiety, but it was a positive anxiety. And recently I was watching the Bear television show, FX. And it's about people trying to create a successful restaurant in Chicago. And then work out all their personal stuff in the meanwhile. And in one episode, some chefs are given timers, and they have to finish a dish within 5 minutes. And when they achieve that, then they have to get it done within 3 minutes. It's clear that they're anxious. It's clear that they're afraid of failure, being fired and failing, and the whole restaurant being closed down. They have a big timer that's counting down to doomsday, to the end of the world. But the characters involved keep focusing how they got into this situation, how they love the work of creating good food that not just nurtures the stomach, but nurtures the mind and creates community together. They're devoted to it. They love it. And they start to love one another. And all of that leads them through that anxiety. So instead of being caught in worry and negativity and self-blame, they're starting to learn to get above and beyond that moment, that anxiety. Now, worry, on the other hand, is a way of thinking. It's an obsessive way of thinking. It is thinking about something with anxiety and trying to resolve that in your thoughts. Worry is a cognitive process, thinking of potential problems, negative outcomes, specific situations, normal part of life, especially when facing challenges or making difficult decisions, worrying about an upcoming exam, job interview, an illness. This is all very common. My wife's going to get her knee replaced. I try not to worry about that, but I am thinking about it, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to need to do and what needs to happen. I'm doing some problem solving, but no worry. If I feel myself getting too worried, I just let go of that worry and be present. The root of the word worry is a Germanic word. It's still used when talking about dogs shaking a small animal. When a dog worries something, grab it, and they're shaking their head back and forth, trying to kill something. I remember my dog, Socks, who I love, did that to a squirrel, and I was shocked. He murdered a squirrel. He just was like, oh, I'm all done now. What are we going to do next? It was just something he did spontaneously. Worry didn't trouble him, that kind of worry. But the word, as it applied to human beings, is about being troubled, distressed. It's attested back to the early 1800s, 1822. The intransitive sense to feel anxiety, feel trouble, comes up and is well used by 1860. So the trouble, the strangling of people are worrying. And worry can be hurtful in times like these. It can be helpful, can motivate, the anxiety could motivate us to resolve problems and maintain focus, but more often it just overwhelms us. I can feel the sadness of people who just don't know what to do. You're powerless and you're hopeless. I forgot to, did you get that graphic? Yeah. So there's a group called the Skeptics Awakening. And they have the logo there. Yeah, their logo is Buddha with these earphones on. And this is a simple little graphic, but it just says, why, what am I doing in worry? Okay. So, are you worried about something? If you're not worried about something, then there's no reason to worry. Sometimes people start to worry about stuff that they really don't need to worry about at all. You can let go of it. You're not going to need to worry about it. It's not really about you. But maybe you are worried about something. And then you have to ask yourself, if you're worried, can you do anything about it? And there's two answers. Either yes, you can do something about it, or no, you can't do anything about it. And if you can't do anything about it, then let go. There's no need to worry, because the worry is not going to help you. If you find something to do, that's great. But usually worrying doesn't help you find stuff. It just makes you feel bad about the situation. It clouds your thinking. But if there's something you can do about it, then great. Stop worrying and take action. I like that little thought process there. Go beyond worry, always. If you find yourself anxious, you're caught in a tight place, there are difficulties, you need to think it through. And the clearer and the calmer, the more present you are, and you find other people. Find who is your worry tiger in your life. Who is it that inspires you to be calm, and powerful, and clear, and hopeful in the midst of that difficulty? To move forward sometimes requires a worry tiger. I like how the character's name is Rory, right? Roar. Finding his own strength, because he was just filled with fear. He was filled with worry. He was filled with anxiety. And then the tiger says, calm down. Figure out what you can do. When you are able to accept the world as it is, when you're open to it, you will experience freedom, contentment, and peace in the midst of almost any situation. Looking at the potential end of democracy, we need to stay in communities like this where we are working to live democratically, to create peace with one another, to know one another. Back at the beginning of thinking about this sermon, I was very angry one night. I had been reading way too much of the news and seeing the damage being done and getting angry at the inconsistencies and frustrated with the lack of clear thinking. It was bugging me, and I was getting angry, and I was getting angry at my spouse. And then I went outside. I just didn't want to be indoors anymore. It was night. I went outside, and the moon was full. It was the last full moon. And I'd forgotten that the moon, at certain times of the year, like at the summer solstice, is actually very low in the sky. Sun's high. Sun's staying up all night. But the moon was down close to the trees, but still glowing. And there were very thin clouds. And it was just utterly beautiful. And immediately, all the practice I have of meditation came back to me. To be present in the beauty of that moment, the trees, the dark sky, and the full moon, and peaceful. I was able to be present even though all the rest of the sources of fear and anger and worry are still there. They were not dominant. They were not pushing me. They were not present. So don't be made useless. Don't be idle with despair. Gather yourself around our faith, for light does the darkness most fear. Tiptoe like a tiger. Find times to walk mindfully, moving on this good earth. Be calm and notice what you can see around you. Sometimes even just sitting in your own home where you are all the time, just pay attention and notice all the stuff you'd forgotten you had stuffed on your shelves and stuff. You can listen. Close your eyes and listen like a tiger. Name what you hear. Be quiet for 5 minutes and listen to how things change, how the sounds change. Notice. Breathe like a tiger. In that book, it talked about putting a stuffed animal. This is in the end of the worry tiger. Put a little of your favorite stuffed animal on your stomach and watch it go up and down as you lay on your back. Just be present. And then stretch like a tiger. Reach for the tops of the trees, reach for the stars, and do that knowing that that is your spirit rising up, not just your body. Do art in the bark. Draw a tiger or draw anything you love, or just draw stripy lines, tiger stripes, or something that reminds you, a scribble that reminds you of something wonderful. Doing art is often relaxing, centering, calming, and when you share it with others, it's part of touching something much greater than the momentary worries and troubles and fears we have. Early in the century, I was privileged to perform the wedding for my youngest brother, Andy, and his bride, Marianne, both of whom met when they were working for the Peace Corps in Central America. We did the ceremony in the small, old, historic Universalist church. Back then, the best man, we went to another place where there was tents outside of the church, and we were going to have this big celebration. And when the bride and the groom arrived, when my brother and his new wife arrived after I had performed the ceremony, the best man decided he was going to play a theme song for that moment. And he chose the REM song, "It's the End of the World as We Know It." And I feel fine. And we all understood that little Andy, my little brother, was growing up. Marianne was going to become a mom. Good things were happening, despite all the troubles of the world. Oh man, I just do that automatically without paying attention. Better than that is we have a really beautiful song that we get to listen to.
Well, the offertory is an ancient element of worship. Giving, regardless of amount, is a spiritual practice that expresses our thankfulness and generosity. We live these values and abundance. Joyfully sharing our gifts and strengths in service to the greater good is one way we create the beloved community. We live these values in abundance. We will now receive the offering. We are blessed by your generosity. May your gifts make a difference in our community through the ministries of this church. Thank you. And in a moment, we're going to move to sing our congregational song, "Where is the Light?" It's from Peter Mayer's album, Midwinter, and the lyrics speak of a time around the winter, not summer solstice. Of course, the song is about spiritual light as well as physical light. So it might be good to affirm the fact that although all seems to be near its end, we must work up to bring new light into the world. So let's sing about it.
The light is inside of you. The light is inside of all who gather in love and hope and joy and peace. Amen.
All right, and now we will extinguish our chalice. As we extinguish the chalice, please join me in saying the words printed in your order of service or on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and embody in our lives until we are together again. Okay, if we want to come forward and form our circle, and we'll sing our closing song, "Carry the Flame."